As an immigrant who has been able to successfully acquire a Canadian passport, how has your Canadian passport given you freedom?
A Canadian passport is a door opener. You would get better treatment, more respect with a Canadian passport than you would do with a Nigerian passport.
Now, I have friends who are talking about in February that let's go to Brazil, let's go to this country, let's do Mexico. Your Nigerian passport, you just wake up and say, let's do Mexico, let's do Brazil, let's do Panama. You will first go online, Google what are the requirements to get a Panama visa?
The question is, why? Your passport strength is tied to your economy. If an American goes to a Nigerian embassy and drops their passport, they will get a visa. Why? You will come back.
You would also understand that there are people who, and this is where it gets tricky, there are people who carry foreign passports, Nigerians or Africans, and they'll go to certain countries. There's still some kind of distinction. They look at you and they say, okay, you may be carrying a foreign passport, but you're a
Nigerian.
We can make things better, and for the generations coming, that this knack for second passport doesn't have to happen. We can make the Nigerian passport stronger. If things were better in Nigeria, you think a lot of Nigerians would be out here.
Nigeria should do everything it can to get electricity, so that me, as somebody who has enjoyed a 24/7 power supply, while even in Nigeria on vacation, for instance, I can still be part of what's happening in Canada. I can still log into work. I can tell them I'm working from home, even though I'm in Nigeria, things like that.
So when we talk about freedoms, I have a question. My question has to go with, people will say one of the reasons that I think you've said it before, one of the reasons that you decided to relocate or move to another country, Canada, was because of the passport, the Canadian passport. Someone like me, for instance, I don't have a Canadian passport. I have a Nigerian passport. But I know the kind of limitations and challenges you can face carrying a Nigerian passport, having to apply for visas, all the paperwork. I talk about this all the time. Now, as an immigrant who has been able to successfully acquire a Canadian passport, how has your Canadian passport given you freedom? How have you used it, not in the future? How have you been able to utilize your Canadian passport as an African immigrant living in Canada to your advantage, to your benefit? Just the Canadian passport.
Do you want me to go, or do you want Inimeka to go?
Well, the question is for two of you, so anybody can start.
Okay. Look, let's not deceive ourselves, and I won't lie to you. There is a difference. When you have a Canadian passport and you travel, there's a difference. When you go to certain countries, to the UK, to the US, there is a difference. I won't lie to you. You don't face that much scrutiny. You do not face that much. There are certain interviews that I've done, although yes, I'm not saying it has got, but for some certain countries, that the only reason why I've been able to I'm sure they even consider it is because of my passports. When you put the Canadian citizen, okay, they can see he's worked in Canada, he has experience, he has, they look at, let's hear what he has to say, And because I've heard people also say that there are some certain jobs that once they see Nigerian, so there are some certain jobs that I think is even there that Nigerians cannot apply. Then another thing is that because of, I think Nigeria is on the list of some certain countries in terms of, like, is it FinTrack or is in terms of financial like risk. Nigeria is on some of those lists. I'm not sure if we're on the terror list, but I know we're kind of teetering on the border and some of those things. So it affects, there are certain the Nigerian passport, we know what it is. When you travel to certain countries, you are scrutinized extra. You are, I remember when we were going to the when we had not gotten the passport, then we were still permanent residents and wanted to travel to the US, and we went to get the American visa, because if you're a permanent resident in Canada, if you want to go to the US, you get a visa. But I remember because my wife when she was in Nigeria, my wife has gone to the US before a couple of times, and I remember then she was telling me about the questioning, and everything when you go for the interview. And she was expecting, the same thing too over here. But you know when you feel you this over here, they'll ask you, are you a permanent resident? You put that here, you scan your permanent resident card. When we got here to the interview, this thing, the guy who was interviewing say, "Oh, where in the US are you guys planning to go to?" We told him, we mentioned, we said we wanted to go to Texas, Houston, and the guy was telling us already. Say, when you guys get there, yeah, I don't ask us. When you guys get there, ensure you visit this place, this place. For your daughter, please visit this. They have very nice for children and everything. So you can imagine having that kind of conversation. Someone saying when you get there and everything. So the guy finished. The guy was like, I can see that. She was asking me that. I can see that you have traveled a couple of times. Why has he not traveled? He was like, we're not married then and everything. So when you got married, you did not take him. I was like, at least we're going now and everything. So okay. So drop your passports and we'll send it to you. So I then had to ask. I said, drop our passport. Is it over? The guy said, yes, drop your passports. We'll send it to you, next day and everything. And that was it. Even my wife was like, wow. I remember we went to the embassy. How many were we inside the place? We were not more than 10, 15 people inside the place. A lot of us permanent residents, and maybe a few students who were students. And I can imagine, she says, imagine the Nigerian embassy in Canada, in the US embassy in Nigeria. Did you know the amount of people that are always there outside? You said even just getting outside, because when I used to go and drop her then and stand back at Walter Carrington, I used to pass there every day to see. The dogs will already be approaching you. Documents. Let me help you check your document. Have you gotten this? Have you checked that? Have you gotten that? Over here, you're just walking into the place. Nobody even cares about you, what you are going to do in there and everything. Because if you have a passport, you will just book your flights and travel. Now I have friends who are talking about in February that let's go to Brazil, let's go to this country, let's and that group they want to say let's do Mexico. Then your Nigerian passport, you just wake up and say let's do Mexico, let's do Brazil, let's do Panama. You will first go online, Google what are the requirements to get a Panama visa.
Thank you for that. For Nigerian passport, there's no for Nigerian passport holders, there's no spontaneity, there's no let's do. You can't even surprise your wife.
Exactly.
So that put out to an embassy and apply for visa to take out to certain country. That you have ruined it.
Yes, sir.
Remember my first American visa. Just the same experience. Getting to Walter Carrington. This was 2019 at 6:30 in the morning. Seeing the long queues of people. We're already on the queue. The guys who were going to interview us, the young consular staff, are not even arrived. They came on a speedboat. Maybe probably even Ikoyi. So they came on a speedboat on Lagos. What's that place called? Lagos 5 Carrick. And they arrived, got in there, and then just before it got to my turn, they had denied all the people on the line. And when it got to my turn, and the lady asked the question, and she was asking the question, she's not even looking at me. She's just doing typing. Okay, where are you going to? Then she carries my passport. Then she's looking at the other visa stickers that I have there. Then she brings a small device. I don't know what it is. And then she's checking it like this to see whether those passports, those visas are legit. You see? And fortunately, when I had to renew the visa, the former policy, the visa waiver policy, when you have an American visa and you want to renew it, you don't have to go there. So you just drop it somewhere and they renew it for you until Trump came and canceled everything and made it 3 months. So, those are the kind of challenges that we see. But before I get to Mika, you would also understand that there are people who, and this is where it gets tricky, there are people who carry foreign passports, Canadian passports, Nigerians or Africans, and they'll go to certain countries, and then there's still some kind of distinction. They look at you and they say, okay, you may be carrying a foreign passport, but you're a
Nigerian.
And because on your passports, it is your country of birth is there now. They know now.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, where from? Then you are given a kind of different treatment and all that. So please, Emeka, please go ahead. Thank you, Busui.
So at the end of the day, yes, I can't play around this. A Canadian passport, I haven't really used mine. I don't even know where it is. I got it. I know it's somewhere in this house, but A Canadian passport is a door opener, you go in with both. You would get, more treatment with a Canadian passport, or better treatment, not more, better treatment, more respect with a Canadian passport than you would do with a Nigerian passport. The question is, why? It boils down to GDP. In the Committee of Nations, people will say, when we go to United Nations, why is Africa not represented? Why is this, blah, 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 blah. You want to be represented at the United Nations, but you are in the queue for donors. You are standing where you are receiving aid. So realistically, who will take you serious if all you do is go around begging for money? Your passport strength is tied to your economy. If an American goes to a Nigerian embassy and drops their passport, they will get a visa. Why? You will come back. Or we need to stamp your visa because you're going there with $1,000, which is 1.5 million naira. So we need you to come. If I'm going from Nigeria to America, they will be why? Because the currency is not at par. So economic power is tied to passport. Yeah, Olusegun talked about soft power. These are the soft powers that countries have, which is why, as Africans, we need to start looking at our governments. Even in Nigeria now, everybody is looking at Tinubu. If you ask people, what is the name of your governor? They may not know. What is the name of your local government chairman? They don't know. Everybody just knows the president. Somehow it's obtainable here, but we can't be measuring ourselves with these developed countries who have, once you conquer hunger, your problems start to become artificial. Yeah, that's what you are looking at here now. They've conquered hunger to an extent, or better than we have in Africa. An average Nigerian that is hungry is not looking at sexuality or why this or why that. They want to fill their belly first. So these things, economic power, jobs, electricity, that's what ties to the power of the passport you are carrying. When African nations start to develop their economy conscientiously, our passport power will rise. Right now, yes, a lot of people want Canadian, American, British, German passports than they prefer those ones to Nigerian passports, because Nigerian passport will, once you present it, there's a level of prejudice that you attract to yourself. But if you present anything other than a Nigerian passport, there's some degree of respect that you get. So that's why everyone is, working hard to, even in Nigeria now, you see people go online on podcasts and it's a sales pitch now. I'll help you get a second passport. It doesn't matter that it is a Brazilian passport or Ecuadorian passport, as long as it's anything not Nigerian. But Nigeria is a land of opportunity, and I think that if our leaders sit down and if at least give us electricity, just give Nigeria 24 hours electricity, a lot of things will start to change from there. But yeah, a second passport is powerful, and anyone who can should get it.
Yeah, that's true. So you make valid points, of course, that I'm trying to search for some. Yeah, that the economy of your country is, and GDP plays a role in that. For instance, a Malaysian citizen or a Malaysian passport holder does not need to apply for a visa to visit the UK. It's visa on arrival for short-term stay. Why? Because they're first and foremost number 36 in terms of GDP in the world, and number 2, many of them like to stay in their countries. That's just it. Many of them like to go and come back to their countries. They love staying at home. So the probability of a Malaysian citizen overstaying their visas, is very slim. So these things play a huge role. And unfortunately, we've had a few people who have misbehaved, who have done things under the table, who have abused many of the privileges that we used to enjoy before, and everybody is suffering for it. We want to be able to move easy. There are many people move who want to move from point A to point B and are happy to come back to their countries, but they are not given that benefit of the doubt. So they are judged already once you see that green passport. So uh, those are very so in summary, your passport gives you an advantage. It helps you to make certain moves. In fact, you see, you're talking about getting some offers, and the fact that you have that passport, it's a kind of seal on you. So the mentality that I think that people should have, because not everybody or will have the opportunity to be able to get a second passport. So the mentality is that Nigerians or Africans who, for one reason or not able to have a second passport, should, in their own ways, just have, I'll try their best to make the best out of what they have. Life, and that's life. Life is unfair sometimes. Some people, not everybody, we're all running races, but not everybody is running the race uh, on the same and the same with the same set of rules. Some people are running a race and they are running uphill. Some people are running a race and they're having excess luggage on their backs. While some people are running downhill and they're being pushed, and they're the ones saying, "I don't want to move faster. I don't want to move faster." So those are the kind of things. So, Busuya, you say you have your hand raised. So please go ahead.
I want to mention something short. Look, I think that something, how will I put it? This race of second passport, yeah, it's valid. I did it. So don't let me discourage anybody who wants to do. If you want to do it, especially for your kids, please go ahead, because Nigeria go better. Nigeria go better. We've been hearing this since the 1990 something, and since we were small, and it hasn't. And that's why a lot of us, made that effort to. I don't plan to retire here, or to. Hopefully, if things are in place, you might see me back in Nigeria sooner than than later. But what I'm saying is that, look, we can make things better, and for the generations coming, that this knack for second passport doesn't have to happen. We can make the Nigerian passport stronger. All we need to do is first look inwards and strengthen our economy, do the right things, put the right things in place whereby the economic situations of Nigerians are better. There won't be this rush or this knack for going out there to get the second passport, because if things are all right here, instead you would even have other people seeking for your own passport to come into your country, to come and live, to invest, to work and everything. So let's put things right. And I remember that during the Obasanjo administration, to some extent, we were kind of on the right trajectory. If you remember that period in time, in terms of even creation of jobs, things were looking all right, better in the economy. Yes, the Nigerians were still traveling abroad and still looking for a second part, but it wasn't this much or this crazy. Can you remember? A lot of people, even then, to get visas weren't that difficult to the UK, to the US. People were getting. Well, I'm saying that during the Obasanjo era, things were on good track. It started going down from the GEG to the Buhari economy, especially during that Buhari period. A lot of people just decided that, what, this country is not for me, and a lot of people started making efforts. And that was when this whole Canada craze of move to Canada started becoming a thing, where it's it started becoming a thing where it became so popular. So what I would say is that, look, we need to, even as Africans, when I think about it being here, that something needs to be done about, we need to do something in terms of making our countries better. There is nowhere out there like your country, like your home. If things were better in Nigeria, you think a lot of Nigerians would be out here or want to leave. A lot of us, would probably want to stay back in our countries and make the best out of it. But it's because of the situation and the way things are. If things were all right, we'll have a stronger passports, and people will go on whatever vacations they want to go, come back, and and you won't have this issue of where you are having to present so much documents because you need a visa and answer so much scrutiny and so much. Why do you want to come to my country? How long do you plan to stay here? And this kind of thing. So those are the things that I think that if our governments, if our leaders, even we as a people, we are responsible. But our leaders, if they are visionary enough, they should realize this. But because just like I said, this classism, this segmentation, they've already established for themselves. Hardly is any leader who doesn't have a second passport, whose children do not have a second. So a lot of these things we're talking about, they don't care. They don't, because
All right, you make very valid points. And based on what you have said, this leads me to my final question. You know, I don't know if you guys are aware, but in recent times, there's been we like call it a surge, that we are now seeing a lot of jackpada situations or cases. Many people who have been abroad for a long time are now coming back home, although they're coming back home quietly. Some are coming back to, maybe they found out that it's not working out for them, especially from the UK. In light of these new immigration policies in the UK, extending the ILR from 5 years to 10 years, people are saying, is it, and all that. So my question is, from your conversation with fellow Nigerian immigrants in Canada, what do you think the average Nigerian immigrant in Canada is waiting to see happen in Nigeria for them to consider coming back home? Are there things that you think that if these things if they get these things right in Nigeria, if we can, have that checkbox in Nigeria, not everything, what are those things that you think people in Canada, Nigerian immigrants in Canada, will start to think, this may be an opportunity, maybe not now, let me see how this thing plays next couple of maybe 1 year, 2 years, and then I may start thinking of coming back. Emeka, please go ahead. In conclusion.
So, I think Nigeria's problem will. I would be bold in saying that 50% of our problems in Nigeria could be solved if we have electricity. We take for granted the impact electricity would have on Nigeria's economy. Imagine waking up in the morning and not having to worry about, like, I'm a palm wine tapper, for instance. I know I can sit down and design something that can climb a tree, a device that I can slap around the palm tree, raise it, bring it down, and I don't have to worry about the cost of fuel to power the generator. Think about the impact it will have on the economy. When, for instance, Olusegun, now, you can sit in Nigeria with your internet and your steady power, and I can say, oh yeah, this guy, I know him, but he's in Nigeria. But yeah, and you get a job. The person who will do the job in Canada might be paid $50 an hour. You can do it for $5 an hour. Processing, we have a lot of resources, raw materials in Nigeria. If we have electricity, we can process more, and we stop sending out these raw materials and send out processed goods. That processing is a life changer, because that population of young people we have, once we start processing things, that's them getting into jobs. You are processing cassava into gari or powder for starch and all of the other things they use cassava for. You're processing yam into flour. You're processing plantain into plantain chips. Look at China today. They're able to do all of the things they are doing because they have cheap electricity. Now, I know that the powers that be, I went to, what is it called? Oji River Power Plant in Enugu State. Do you know that power plant is connected to a coal mine? They are mining coal and they are sending it but now we can't use that power plant because the powers that be tell us that coal damages the environment. Now, should we keep ourselves in hunger and penury because we are worried about the environment? The people who have conquered hunger and are now worried about the environment are telling us in our hunger that we should care about the environment. I mean, there could be arguments here and there about it, but in my opinion, Nigeria should do everything it can to get electricity. There's at least 100 million people that are fighting poverty, and giving them electricity will improve their life. So that me, as somebody who has enjoyed a 24/7 power supply, I can come back to Nigeria and say, oh, wow, while even in Nigeria on vacation, for instance, I can still be part of what's happening in Canada. I can still log into work. I can tell them I'm working from home, even though I'm in Nigeria, things like that. There's a whole lot of opportunities that will open up. And then we can start to look at infrastructure like hospitals, like roads, just basic things that politicians can do without necessarily throwing too much money around. I don't think it will cost too much to build roads. I don't think it will cost too much to do some of the things government should do. But here we are. But for me, the major thing that we can do is give Nigerians electricity and let the rest figure itself out.
That was the final question. Anyway, you make a very
Oh,
valid.
okay.
That was the final question. And Busui, just
Just let me repeat the question again.
what is that thing that you feel that Nigerians are waiting to see happen? Nigerians in Canada are waiting to see happen in Nigeria that make them start to reconsider coming back home. Emeka said, major thing. What's your own thoughts?
The thing is, in your last video, you one with you guys and Chibak, you mentioned it. A lot of Nigerians don't want to retire here because cost of living over here and everything. But in terms of if right now things start, if security, power, and economic prosperity is, why not? A lot of people will consider coming back. If right now the security gets better, state of security, power gets better, definitely. Then economic prosperity, the economy gets better. The economy getting better, it means that amenities will get better, things will get, and there will be much more opportunities, jobs, and everything. Definitely, I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will have these mindsets. They would also want to. They will also, if the opportunities are there, they want to come back. Definitely, without even thinking about it too much. So those are the things that if the government can do, definitely. I see sometimes when I say Tinubu asks people Nigerians abroad to come back, or one government is saying people should come back to what? Come back to what? So if those things get better, definitely a lot of Nigerians will jump at it. A lot of the Japada moves right now that you're seeing out there is because of the immigration policies some of these countries are adopting of recent. Canada, the US, the UK. A lot of Nigerians do not have a choice. Some of them have to go back. Some people are going back there because maybe there are some opportunities that they have figured out and they want to go back to that. But a lot of people are going back because of the current immigration policies. People like us, me, are lucky. I don't have such problems, but it's unfortunate what it is.
Thank you so much, Busui and
Again,
Pizza, for this interesting conversation. I think we had a good few minutes discussing this, and I think it was a good one.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, and I appreciate your time here. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and God bless.